In this video, I'll be talking about the visual and material culture of the various forms of art that I studied during my research. Next is first I've tried to understand the various forms of Patachitra painting that I found. Now coming to the similarities, Lord Jagannath is the main focus figure in all the paintings. The whole painting is ornamental, showing influence of Mughal styles, which is clearly visible in their jewelry as well as costumes. The huge round eyes are the main point of emphasis. So in this painting and even in this painting, which has so many elements and details, the eyes are the main focus figure. Highly decorative borders have been used, and we can see that not just one border but two borders have been used so that our focus does not shift outside the canvas. Lines and dots have been used in all the paintings to add details. Now, coming to the differences, the use of color is different in each composition, keeping in mind the balance. Often, there are characters such as animals other than Lord Jagannath that are also painted. The shape of the figures keeps changing, like in this one, the face is a circular. Here, it is more like a rectangular, and in this one, it is like a drop shape. And various other events or other stories have also been depicted, and in some paintings we can also see that gold foil has also been used to make them decorative. Next is the Pinterest board that I created of the various forms of expression that I found in my region, which was Central Highlands. So I found paintings, clothing, jewelry, architecture, printing and dance. Now, first talking about the paintings, coming to the similarities, they all were done by tribes which were closely knit communities. The major theme was the depiction of local deities of a particular area. They were done on walls of either houses or temples. The use of natural color in all the paintings, natural colors have been used, and we can see that in all the paintings, lines and dots have been used extensively to add details. We can also make out that at this point of time there was a presence of a naturalized human who worshipped nature and was afraid of its fury. Talking about the differences, the surface or canvas on which the paintings were done were different. Like Patachitra art was done on wooden planks, Warli art here is done on wall murals, and the Gond art was sometimes painted on cloth as well. There were also depictions of birds and animals in some paintings. So the painting was not just about the local deities but about the surroundings as well, about the nature as well. The color scheme differed in all these paintings. So we can see that here gold color has been used, but it hasn't been used in this painting, not even in this one. So the color scheme was different in each painting. Next is architecture. So the major similarities were that all these architecture were inspired from European style of architecture, and since they all were built in the British province of Bombay, they all had the European influence. They were made by Britishers, and the purpose to make them was to re-establish British authority in India, especially after the revolt of 1857. The common features are the pillars, like in this one, the arches and the domes. They all had a garden or a park outside them so that people can get relaxed. We can also see that on top of all the buildings a flag is visible. All these were built in British provinces. So the differences were, though inspired from European Renaissance, there were three different styles: Neoclassical, which was a revival of Roman architecture; Neo-Gothic, a revival of Gothic architecture; and Indo-Saracenic, which was a fusion of Hindu, Muslim, and European styles of architecture. The buildings were used for government works, and thus the interior was of each was different, and the purpose of using them was different. Now coming to the jewelry, the similarities were, we can see that heavy ornamental designs can be seen in the jewelry. They are either made up of silver or gold, showing the rich class. The artists were the local communities known as Swarnkar. There were different techniques such as engraving and embossing technique used to create design. Like in this one it was engraving technique, and in this gold jewelry it is embossing technique. They were all commissioned by someone, either kings, British officials or landlords, someone who was rich enough to afford them. Differences: the motifs differed from region to region depending on the local culture and traditions. Some were daily wear, while others were also symbol of honor to be given by the king, such as in this case The tribal jewelry were made from hand, while the ones commissioned by the British, like this one, was made with advanced tools and techniques. Some of them even had European influence. Now, talking about the printing, with the introduction of printing press, the main objective was to promote literature and to draw attention to the lapses in the government policy. It also gave a right of freedom of expression and freedom of press with a view to ultimately fight for the freedom of the country against the British rule. Another similarity was that it created awareness and recognized the intangible forms of art such as writings, poetry, etc. There were some differences too, like some magazines also included caricatures or drawings of that time scene. Many were handwritten, such as journalism. Different topics were discussed, and the language of communication differed from region to region. As it is evident in this image, it is the magazine from Odisha, and it is this one's written in English. Now, talking about the clothing, the major differences were that it was practiced by different communities. The fabric was also different: silk and cotton. One is tapestry weaving, which is this one, Pethani silk, and other one is embroidery technique, which is the one in the below, pipli applique. And one is meant to be worn by women, while the other was made to cover the chariots of Lord Jagannath. The major similarities that I could find out was the patterns were inspired by the local art and deities. It was a symbol of royalty and divinity. They have borders and motifs. Both these images have borders and motifs. They were worn by people of high class, such as kings and Brahmins. Now, these were the overall similarities and differences that I could make out from all the forms of expression. So, similarities were the main purpose was the religious beliefs and practices, whether it was dance or art or architecture. All of these were created to express one's emotion, whether it was created by the British or the Indian tribes. Natural colors and materials available in the surroundings were used, such as sandstone and pillars in case of architecture. They were patronized by either kings or the Britishers, since so the artists were unknown. Common elements were lines, dots, domes, and arches, and silk in the fabric. Differences were, we can see that the influence of European styles in the British provinces, while the other areas were still inspired by nature. Themes differed from region to region, like the theme of royalty in the case of silk fabric, theme of religion in the case of paintings, and the theme of power in the case of architecture. Some were created to capture the daily lives of the people, like the paintings, while others were created to show the grandeur of British rule, like architecture. Now, after this, I've tried to list the keywords or key phrases which defined each form of architecture in different parts of my region. So, for the paintings, I have listed down the words such as tribal art, natural colors, depiction of deities and nature, major themes, religious belief, lines and dots. For clothing, it is motifs, borders, royalty, and divinity. Coming to jewelry, it is rich class, symbol of honor, Swarnkar community, and ornamental design. Talking about architecture, European styles, colonialism, re-established British authority because of revolt of 1857, neoclassical, neo-Gothic, and Indo-Saracenic were the three major styles. Printing, intangible forms of art, a form of expression, journalism, freedom of expression, journalism, and to create awareness. That's all. With this, I come to the end of my presentation. Thank you.